All right, Brianna, thank you very much. Joining us now for more is the co-host of CNN's Crossfire, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Sir, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Great to be with you.
So let's get to brass tacks here. Do you think if there were a vote, it would pass right now? Do you think
Probably
that they
not.
could? You don't think it would?
No, in fact, 4 of the Republicans who the media had been counting on came out last night and said, look, we're not going to split with Boehner.
So this is Democrat hype?
Well, sure. And the Democrats, well, they don't want to talk about how many senators would vote for the clean Veterans Administration, clean National Park, clean National Institutes of Health. And a lot of bills sitting there that Harry Reid's blocking because most of his Democrats would vote for him if they were brought up.
Do you believe the Democrats are more anxious to reopen the government than the Republicans?
Oh, sure. Of course they are. Look, the Democrats would love to have the Republicans surrender. They'd love to get to spend the money the way they want to. They would love to change nothing because they're in charge. That's perfectly understandable. It's just not how our system works.
But what does it mean when you reflect those intentions onto the polls that we see where people believe that this is a crisis, that this is a real problem? They're blaming both, to be fair, a little bit more for Republicans. But does that mean that you're not on the side of the people?
Well, look, I think, first of all, this is a republic, and people get elected every 2 years to the House and every 6 years to the Senate. This is not October of 2014. There's a long time to go. I also believe that if you look at the polls, this should truly bother Obama. In fact, I wrote a piece for CNN.com this morning that said, compared to my experience in 95, 96, he is taking a much deeper hit than Bill Clinton did, and it's because he keeps saying, I will not negotiate. I mean, every time you look up when we're doing Crossfire and you see, I will not negotiate, he's driving a message home to the American people that they think is nuts. I mean, they think a president's job is to get in a room and get things done, not just to make speeches and attack somebody.
You think that when the American people look at this situation, they think it's the president who's being too extreme in his position and not the conservative faction?
I think they think everybody is, and that's a huge loss for Obama because 6 weeks ago, they would have been on his side.
All right, so politics aside, because at the end of the day, at least you know me pretty well. I don't care about that part as much. What seems to be of concern, though, is the absolute effect on people that we have as we move into the debt ceiling. You've been through shutdowns. You understand them. You're not in panic mode. But you threatened, but you never blew a deadline on a debt ceiling. What is your counsel to your party?
First of all, my counsel to the whole country is we will not default.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. That's not going to happen.
What if they blow the deadline?
Well, it's irresponsible of Jack Lew, as Secretary of the Treasury, to suggest that he can't manage this. I mean, we've had experience in the past. The Treasury has lots of assets. They can go for months by juggling things. So we're not going to default. That's not going to happen.
Even if you blow the deadline, you're not worried?
No. From 1953 on, under now President Eisenhower, we have fought over the debt ceiling. For 60 years we've done this. Eisenhower wanted a debt ceiling increase. A bipartisan group of senators said no. It took him a year to get it. We gradually got better at doing it. Some of the biggest changes in spending have come under the debt ceiling. And I don't understand why people give credit to this idea that this is new or different, or that it's rational for Harry Reid and Barack Obama to say, I will not negotiate.
Economy is a little flimsy. The markets are very sensitive. You saw in 2011 with a relatively inconsequential credit move, you wind up having the market tank 2,000 points. Took some time to sustain. Times are different now. If you mess with it, you can't control it in D.C.
Which is why the president ought to be getting off his high horse, sitting in a room, bringing in the congressional leadership, and acting like he's part of the Constitution. He's not above it.
But should you reinforce the idea that you don't want to mess with this, you guys, men and women down in D.C., don't do this. It could be very bad, Newt.
No, it depends what you mean by mess with it. Should they add amendments to it? Absolutely. Should they find a way to get to an agreement and act like adults? Absolutely.
But don't mess with the debt ceiling. Don't you believe that should be a no-go zone?
In a worst case, they could pass a 2-week extension and keep fighting. What I object to deeply, both as an American citizen, as a conservative, and as a former Speaker of the House, is this notion that we somehow owe the president bowing to him and doing things on his terms with no negotiations. I think this is a terrible idea.